Okay, go ahead.
Good evening. The Red Bank Historic Preservation Commission will hold a regular meeting on Wednesday, April 2024 at 7 p.m. at Council Chambers, 90 Monmouth Street, Red Bank, New Jersey. Adequate notice of this meeting has been posted at Borough Hall, filed with Borough Clerk, and provided to the Asbury Park Press and the Two River Times. The commission has maintained a policy of cutoff hour of 8:30 p.m. for its hearings, but if the public has more to say, of course, we're not going to cut them off. I see Karen coming in.
Okay. She'll make it.
So we're going to stand for the Pledge of Allegiance. Pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America, and to the republic for which it stands, one nation,
under God, indivisible,
free and
with
just.
justice for all.
Roll call, please.
Louis Alamarini. Absent. Marjorie Cavalier.
Present.
Liam Collins.
Present.
Paul Cagno.
Present.
Karen Schmelkoff. Present. Is that how you say it? Schmelkoff. Doug Miller.
Here. Present.
Andy Dorf.
Here, present.
And Betsy Valera. Absent.
Okay, before we accept a motion to accept the minutes from the last meeting, I just want to review a couple of Robert's Rules of Order. In other words, if you vote yes, you should have been at the meeting. If not, you would just abstain. And also, if you make the motion, then it is assumed that you are approving the motion. If somebody seconds the motion, they should still vote yay or nay. Okay, so you all receive the minutes in your email. Okay, is there a motion to accept the minutes?
I motion that.
A
Is there-
second.
Oh, Liam seconds. Okay, so now
Marjorie,
I accept.
okay. Liam Collins,
Aye.
Paul Cagno,
Yes.
and Karen, you will abstain, so you are not here. Doug Miller,
Yes.
Andy North.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. So the motion passes. So now, this is something that we added to the last agenda, last time we met. So rather than having the public comment after we've had action on various items, we're asking them if there's anything on the agenda that they could see. I hope everybody in the audience has gotten a copy of the agenda. It was available on the website, Shona.
Yes, it's under agendas and minutes. And an extra, if anybody.
Oh, hey, Karen, could you just pass it around if anybody'd like to see it? So we know, so they know what's on the agenda?
You could just. Okay. First beeping if it's too low.
Okay, does any member of the public want to comment about anything on the agenda? Go ahead. Identify yourself and give your street address.
Cindy Gardner, good evening, everybody. 71 Wallace Street. I just wanted to make a comment on the Minor Works Review Committee report. Who is on that? Shauna, do you know? Can you tell us?
Sure. Louis is on it and Liam and Paul. They're the ones.
Okay, and you say they go out for minor work, when it's a minor renovation, correct?
Correct?
That is correct.
Okay, and I would like to know what goes on when they go out, like their comments, press, and where the work is being done. Like you had said that couldn't be public.
No, the meeting isn't public. So our committee, the committee meeting of the minor work, that is not public because it's a committee meeting.
Okay,
Just like any committee, like there's subcommittees throughout.
can we come and listen to it?
Those aren't open for public.
Will they write up something? I mean,
Yes,
I think,
because
I really think that people should know when somebody's doing work in the historic district.
of course, and that's why it's reported here at the meetings also. Yes.
Thank you.
Yeah, and also that's why we added it to the agenda. So from now on, the public will see the Minor Works Review Committee report before we make any decisions.
Is there any other member of the public that would like, oh, sorry. Is there any other member of the public that would like to comment on the agenda? Okay, with that being said, we're gonna move on to the next item, which is the Minor Works Review Committee report, and that will be given by.
Okay, so the minor works committee met twice to review two applications. One was for 99-101 Wallace Street. And that was for the replacement of the slate roof to asphalt shingles. What the committee recommended was that the applicant replace the roof with something that is more in closer to the style and representation of slate, but not with slate, because they had already ripped off the roof. So that was their conclusion, that they recommended that the applicant do that. The second application was 67 Wallace Street. And that was for the replacement of the porch roof, right? Oh, and that was that due to, I guess, some damage to the roof leaking, and the committee recommended that what the applicant proposed to replace in kind was acceptable.
I just have one question. Under the ordinance, it talks about emergency procedures. And so I guess the second 67 Wallace was emergency work.
Right.
So under the ordinance, it says necessary to preserve the continued habitability or stability of the building. So is that done by a visit to the site, or is that done by testimony of the property owner?
That it was, that's an emergency?
Yes, right. It sounds like this was an emergency work because.
Well, they
necessary to
submitted the
preserve-
application, so they submitted an application, it wasn't like an emergency if the construction code official goes out and sees that, you know, it's a badly damaged structure, but I mean, Paul submitted it as soon as he needed it to be repaired, and the minor works committee met pretty quick. They actually met the next day.
Okay, but when they talk about the emergency work in here, I mean, how is that different than like what he did to go in like as soon as it happened? And to try and get somebody in there?
Like how is it determined that it's,
Yeah.
I mean, it's, if someone sees immediately that they need the work done and that, you know, by a professional is determined that it's emergency, then we would meet sooner. I mean, I don't really see that as an issue because the minor work committee, they make themselves available. I mean, from the two times that we've met.
Okay. Just, you know,
And
trying to get
I mean,
clarification.
Yeah, I mean, my feeling is
My feeling is if it's an emergency, that if the minor work committee can't get to it, and if we were so inclined, we could ask for documentation afterwards, but if it's an emergency, it's gotta get done right away.
Mhm.
It can't be delayed for a week or 10 days. In the situation at 67 Wall Street, my tenant was telling me she had water coming in her bedroom, so I brought two roofers in who told me that roof needed to be replaced. I put the application in, I replaced the porch roof the same exact way it was done. Actually, they pulled off 5 layers of roof, so
Oh, wow.
it was a little bit different.
Okay, any other comments or questions about that report? Okay, that doesn't need a motion to accept, it's just a report. So now we move on to old business. And the first item is acknowledgement of a new comprehensive list. And so Shauna, are you gonna report on that?
Since you did the majority of the work on it.
Okay, so I basically was using the list published as part of the report from 2009 and walked around town and gave an eyeball to everything that was listed there. I then determined, just me and reading the ordinance, if I thought that the building was still contributing to the integrity of the district or not. And I based that on partially on the testimony from the Fairhaven commissioner that was at our meeting and other people that I talked to on previous commissions, that it's basically what it looks like from the street. So what somebody did inside is not part of the ordinance. Somebody added something to the back of the building, not on the ordinance. There was one structure that was listed as a barn that I could not see without crossing into private property. So I can't tell you what it was in that case. And then what I noted on each of these properties, because I would like to clean up this list, there are some structures that are no longer there, that are vacant now because they were demolished. And there are some that, according to the definition of non-contributing on page 8 of the ordinance, that I listed. In other words, standing on the sidewalk looking at this structure, there's no way that it looks like something from the 19th century or has any integrity that could contribute to the historic nature of somebody living there, famous or something. So non-contributing buildings, if people don't have the ordinance or are not familiar, a building, site, structure, or object that does not add to the historic architectural quality, historic associations, or archaeological values for which a property is significant. A building can be non-contributing if it was not present during the period of significance, or, and this is what I relied on, or if it was altered, disturbed, or modified in a manner that eliminates its character defining features. So I gave a copy of my report to Shauna, and hopefully everyone will agree that when they do add this list, there would be a notation if a particular address or structure is not contributing.
Yeah, Marjorie handwrote a lot of the stuff, so it's just to clean it up a little bit more and put it into one document spreadsheet. I don't know if it's better to do it just in an Excel file or to do it in a PDF for everyone, if they want to edit it themselves.
I prefer PDF personally. I think for me, it's easier. I don't know if anybody else feels about that.
It's fine with me as well, the PDF.
I can also do it.
I have to press this.
You could,
button.
yeah.
Which one? If it helps, I could put it in an Excel, save it as a Google Sheets, and also save it as a PDF. So, and everybody could have their choice of what they wanted.
I already have the list like as a Excel sheet, so it was whether or not
Yeah.
you wanted me to put it.
Okay.
Okay, so the next item on old
Oh,
business.
sorry, can I interrupt for a second?
Yes.
I was just wondering, is Joel Brody there from the Monmouth Boat Club?
Yeah, so we have two representatives here from the boat club.
Okay, because I had asked him to give a brief presentation, but I don't think it made it onto the agenda.
It did, it's under new business, so right
Oh,
now.
it is under, okay, sorry, I didn't see it. Excuse me. Okay,
Okay, the next item under old business is Irving Place, letter to residents.
Okay, so we are drafting a letter as informing the residents that we will be doing a presentation on designating the individual properties as a historic district. On Irving Place, we, as Michelle had said, we have to find our boundaries out, so we have to define that.
I thought that we did that. We basically said Irving Place from Broad Street to Maple.
I wasn't sure if it was like changed, maybe, but based on her presentation, that was my fault.
Any other comments or questions on the second agenda item?
I guess with respect to the letter, we're gonna be sending that certified mail, return receipt to the homeowners.
Yes,
And can we see a copy of the letter before it goes out?
yeah, I can send it out if you want to review it before the next meeting, and then I'll send it out at the June, before the June meeting. Does that work for everyone? Okay,
So it would be on the agenda for public comment at the June meeting. And you would present the historical significance of each of the 18 properties.
so it would just be a generic letter stating that we, on the June meeting, we're gonna hold a presentation before the board for designation as these properties to be included in a historic district. The June presentation would then be the significance of each of these buildings, and whether or not they're contributing or not.
And you would do that. You would present the background of the 18 buildings.
If you wanna do it, it's
No,
fine.
I'm just, you know, I don't know that you have to certify the 3 that are already designated.
I would do it just to be safe.
All right, so May meeting,
May meeting is a draft of the letter.
okay, and June meeting is the actual
June
presentation.
meeting is the presentation, and it's just so I can not be mistaken, the boundary is
Irving Place from Broad Street to Maple,
Broad Street.
18 properties.
Shauna, just a question about the letter. Will the owners of the property be able to give any evidence to why their individual property should be designated? Can they come to the public meeting to say why they feel it should be?
That's the reason why we're holding the presentation, is so that they can attend the meeting. That's why they're getting the notice before the June meeting, so that they can prepare themselves to attend the commission meeting to speak on their property.
Right, I guess I'm asking if maybe they have information about their own individual property that might help make the argument that we're not aware of, or maybe they know some anecdotal stories about their property, or how would they be able to convey that to us?
They can either do it, I can put it in a letter that if they want to speak to me before, if they have additional information to add before we do the
Okay.
presentation, or they can do it at the meeting.
I think if you mention that in the letter,
Mhm.
that would be helpful.
Okay.
That they can either send an email to you with an attachment or come to see you personally. I don't know that you want that to happen.
No, that's
Everybody
fine.
have to get to your office.
It already
Or
happens.
wait until the June meeting.
Yeah.
So, okay, great.
And the only other thing I would add was also should, I think we're jumping to a conclusion that all residents are going to want their property to be included in the historical district.
Sure.
So we probably should put something in the letter that this is their opportunity to come and object.
Yes,
They don't want their property in the historic district.
okay, I'll add that too.
And there's already precedent for that, as I said, because only three are currently listed by ordinance
Out of 18.
out of 18. So I don't know, but it was also interesting, if you remember at the other meeting, the one person did not know that they were in a designated historic site until after they bought the house, so. Okay, so item number 3 under old business.
Let me speak to that.
I don't know if I have the ordinance in front of me. No, I would know the actual vote and everything, who voted on the thing, bear with me. Okay, yes. So, resolution number 08-65.
That's a council resolution. I want to put that on. the record.
Oh, council resolution 08165 was passed on August 11th, 2008, and certified by the borough clerk at the time, and was passed unanimously by 5 members of the council. So, but let me just say this, that the list that I was working with, not everything on it was this ordinance, which,
Resolution.
resolution, which prompted me for Shauna to start a search for earlier ordinances that I suspect were passed based on my walking around element. Some of the sites had the year 2004 or 2005 next to it, but we haven't, we're still working on that.
Yeah.
So at least we're moving forward on that. So any questions on that? Okay, so moving to new business, and we have some presentations, and the first one on the agenda is the Monmouth Boat Club presentation. So we have to silence our microphones so they can be heard.
No, you could keep your microphones on. Those are operating separate.
I just sit here, is that good?
Yeah, that's fine. If you could just draw the mic really close to your face.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah,
I'm sure I'm on the. Hi, thank you for having us. I'm Andy Zangle, I'm the Vice Commodore of Monmouth Boat Club. We are here to ask for your support for our grant application to the New Jersey Historical Trust. I don't know how many of you know a lot about Monmouth Boat Club, so I'm prepared to go through a little bit of the history, a little bit of what our problem is, and what we're planning to do. That's kind of the way I set up my talk here. Monmouth Boat Club was established in 1879 by a Dr. Irwin Field, a resident of Red Bank. He established the club because he couldn't race his rowboat in Princeton unless he belonged to a club. In 1878, they told him, "Oh, you can't race with us, you're not in a club." So he established the boat club along with 12 or so of the gentlemen in Monmouth in Red Bank. The club has been on that same property since about 1890. The first half of the clubhouse was built in 1890. A number of other buildings are there. In 1930, the building took the shape that it has today. It's a shingle building. It's one of the only shingle buildings on the waterfront. Maybe the Ice Boat Club next to us, I think, is the only other example. We try to maintain it in its historic fabric. We have been a lot of racing in thing. We operate the boat club all year. The boat club is in the winter, we race in the river as long as it's not freezing. If it's freezing, the ice boaters get the river. We'll put on dry suits and go out there and race. You might be able to see it many Sundays. I think we also, in the past few years especially, have been very open to public events. We've had a lot of meetings there. The Maritime Historical Society is there tonight. The Monmouth County Historical had a meeting there, and we're participating in the Day of Monmouth County Historical in May. Try to do a lot. The club is open to everyone. We're a private club. You can't just walk in and be there, but we appreciate guests and we appreciate new members. We run a junior sailing program. A lot of the people in junior sailing are not members of the club, and a lot of other programs in the club that we run. Our problem is that the foundation is old and it's falling apart. The floor is not level. If you drop something on the floor that's even remotely round, it goes to one corner of the building. We've done some temporary repairs in 2020, 21, had a engineering study done. We got a price that was a little out of our range then. It's still a very steep climb for us to get this done. The current estimate we got a couple of days ago is $2.5 million in round numbers to get this done. It is a marine environment. We're going to have to take the building and move it from one place to another and put it back. There's no other way to do this, really. Where the plan is to put the building back where it is in its historical kind, repair the foundation is essentially what we're doing, and do a minimal amount of raising to the building to keep the historic fabric of it, but raise it up a little bit so that we're flooded fairly often. We want to raise it above it so that we're not flooded. 21 inches is what we're raising it, keeping the historic character. The FEMA guidelines would have us raise the building by approximately 8 feet. We're not doing that, not being historic. Going to DEP in June, I believe, to try to get their approval for this plan. We have an application for the New Jersey Historical Trust for $650,000 of matching funds, and the rest of the money we're going to match that and raise ourselves. We intend to start construction in September or October of 25. We want to do the construction over the winter, so it impacts the least number of residents, least number of members. And during that time, the building will be up in the yard on cribbing. I don't know what else it's again, we're trying to maintain the historical character. There'll be some flood vents added to the building. The foundation itself will be something called helical piles. They'll be driven into the ground. There'll be piers on them. You can see them. We're going to make sure that the first floor is now fully ADA accessible. We have a ramp out there now. It is not ADA or code compliant, to be perfectly honest, because of the end of the ramp has a bunch of structural members, columns that are in the way. The architect has now taken them out. The first floor will be ADA compliant. We will have, for future use, a foundation put in for an elevator to the second floor for handicap access to the second floor. And we'll also building the foundation in such a way so that if we need to raise the building further, we don't have to put another foundation. It'll reinforce this one more important. So we're trying to do that. And what we would really like is a motion and accept. I could report back to the committee, to the New Jersey Historical Trust tomorrow when the grant is due, that you support it. There's a motion made and accepted to support our application to keep the building standing, essentially, is what I'm saying. Because again, we have a letter from the engineer who says if we don't do the work within 2 years from now, we're going to expend a lot of money on trying to repair a foundation that's really not repairable. That's right. We spent almost $100,000 2 years ago to repair it. It's such a surprise to us that how much money it was going to cost. And that was between a study and the construction and then the inspection of the construction that we had to have done. Aside from any town issues, it was all us. The engineer specified something, contractor did it, the engineer inspected said yes, he did it right. So we'd like to do the foundation in a way that's going to last decades, not a couple of years. That's what we're intending to do.
So I just have a couple of questions and a comment. So I don't know a lot about your club. How do you raise funds? I mean, is it just by membership dues?
We raise funds in a couple of ways. It's membership dues. We're now starting a 501c3 that many clubs have. We have never had one. We're going to raise that way. We can raise money through assessments. The membership is really behind this, and that's kind of, I'd say, surprising. We don't like to spend a lot of money. We're a club, different varying levels of, I guess, income and wealth in the club. We pride ourselves on being a boat club, not a yacht club. And it's very much a sailors and rowers kind of a club. The sailing and rowing, that's really that kind of a club, and there's a big social component now. But we're not, we're raising money through donations, through assessments. We know we have to do an assessment, and we just increased the dues 10% this year to pay for this as just to put into the capital fund. So that's how we raise money.
Okay, and we also talked about, I guess Liam and I and Shauna were on a conversation thread. I hope you're in agreement that you had a very detailed letter written by the chair from 2023. And so what Shauna will supply to you is that through a motion tonight, depending on how the vote goes, you will share that we support the recommendation. So, and then send it to him via email tomorrow with a list of people who voted for and who was absent from the commission, so they have that versus the letter from one person last year.
No problem. I need to leave by noon tomorrow with the grant to get it down to, in time to Trenton. It has to be in Trenton tomorrow afternoon. I just want to say, if you don't know what the club is, come on down on a Sunday. We're happy to show just anyone's welcome.
I will.
Anyone's
I
welcome.
will go down.
And just come on down, or we can arrange.
Sure.
There are many social events. I'm happy to have any of the members of the commission at any of those events.
Okay.
And the other thing is that if the commission would like to meet outside, and would like to meet in a historic building, we're happy to have them too.
Okay.
I just want to clarify for the commission that this isn't, you're not voting on, the work that they're doing.
Right.
It's just to vote to support them. I just want to make that for the record. You would have to come back here
Yes,
when you're ready to do the construction work.
we understand that.
So Liam, since you've been talking with the boat club, would you like, I'm inviting you to make the motion?
Can I comment?
Yes,
Two
Oh,
comments.
sure.
There are
Sorry,
two
sorry.
comments.
Sorry.
I was just curious, that you mentioned that you wanted something that will last not just for a few years, but a long time, and yet FEMA's saying it has to be higher, and we know climate change, et cetera. And so that's one concern. What if the EPA will not give you permission? Do you have a,
We have, because the foundation is built so we can raise it up further. We could modify the plans.
okay,
Put it up another 3, 4 feet if they did that. Right now, the historical trust has told us that we need to keep the building with minimal raise in it. And we have a couple of different, the building survived Sandy because we opened the doors on both sides. The FEMA was amazed. I wasn't there, but it told the FEMA was amazed that our building was still standing after Sandy. You know, the water came up to the street and above. They were amazed. But what we did is we opened both doors and for security, we put some 2x4s across them, but the water basically ran in and out. The way the building is built now, we have a sort of a pine floor, an old style pine floor. So it's not pine, which you think of today. It's a good solid softwood pine. And that pine has holes in it actually, because we do get wet once in a while. We're going to try to raise it up so that doesn't happen very often and waterproof the stuff underneath with, the right kind of lumber. So that the building, and there'll be flood vents in the design as well, which is one of the National Park Service recommendations.
now, the DEP or is it EPA? That's also
So,
DEP?
State DEP, state DEP, we've been told to start there.
Yes, they will see all of these plans.
Yes.
And they're coming up, what date do they look at this?
They will look at the plans. We have a pre-meeting with them. We have a pre-meeting with them in June or May 29th, actually. A pre-meeting with them in May. And then we will put our formal application in after that pre-meeting. We'll get some guidance as to how we go. Well, I doubt it's going to be a permit by rule. The easier way to go, but, and they'll give us some guidance as to their feeling with it. And the New Jersey Historical Trust will come to that meeting as well.
Right, so my only comment was, I haven't seen the proposed letter. I support everything that you've said so far. I just haven't seen the letter that you want me to agree with. I'd like to see that before I agree to it. That's my only comment.
Okay.
Unless it was emailed to me, Shauna, I don't think it was. Yeah.
All right.
Yeah, could you just read it?
Sure. All right, so this is a letter that is written by Chris Fabricant, who was chair of the Red Bank Historic Preservation Committee last year. It's dated April 17, 2023. And it's addressed to the New Jersey Historic Trust Department of Community Affairs. It's a two-page document. Dear members of the New Jersey Historic Trust, I'm writing on behalf of the Red Bank Historic Preservation Commission to support Monmouth Boat Club and its 2023 Capital Preservation Grant application, parens level 2, for replacement of its deteriorating substructure. The boat club occupies a shingle-style Victorian building that is located at the riverfront beside downtown Red Bank. The building is a key historic resource that is listed on national and state registries as well as county and borough inventories. It was erected in 1895, soon after Red Bank became established as a regional center for trade and commerce. Since then, it has continuously served not only as a recreational boating facility, but also as gathering place for social and educational events. Notably, in recent times, the boat club promotes environmentally friendly sporting activities aboard rowing and sailing vessels. Red Bank is located some 25 miles from Manhattan at the navigable head of the Navesink River. During the mid-19th century, when steamboats arrived on scene, transportation between Red Bank and Manhattan became both economical and reliable, and reciprocal trade flourished. Raw materials, for example, lumber, were shipped to Manhattan, and finished goods, for example, clothing, were carried back to Red Bank. As traders and merchants in Red Bank acquired wealth, they directed some of it towards leisurely pursuits. Within this context, Monmouth Boat Club was erected. In 1895, William A. Coyle served as president at the newly erected boat club. He was well known as the founding partner of a successful dry goods store named Adlam and Cole, which was located on Broad Street in the heart of Red Bank's commercial district. At the boat club, Mr. Cole maintained his own watercraft, a 42-foot steam-powered yacht named Gladys. Monmouth Boat Club is located only a short distance from Red Bank's designated commercial and residential historic districts, and it makes sporting activities on the river and social gatherings at the waterfront readily accessible. It helps to make Red Bank a pedestrian-friendly town where not only life's necessities, but also its pleasures are located in close proximity to one another. The same was true in 1895 when William Cole's residence, business, church, and boat all were located within a 0.15-mile radius. Exclamation point. Separate from its tangible offerings, Monmouth Boat Club is important to us because it draws our attention to the Navesink River and to our history as it relates to the river. At low tide, one can see that the piles supporting the boat club were embedded within the distinctive reddish-brown soil that inspired the name of our town, the name that first appeared in an official document in 1736. From the third-floor porch of the boat club looking upstream, one has a clear view of Oyster Point, so named because it was the site of a large mound of oyster shells erected by the Lenape people. Lenape, sorry. On approach to the boat club, looking at the immediate surroundings where Red Bank's port was located during the Revolutionary War, one is reminded that tension must have existed there because prominent citizens associated with the port, for example, Joseph Price III, were loyal to the Tory government and on at least one occasion carried out an act of violence against the Patriots, Allen House Massacre. Observing the same surroundings at the boat club, but now considering the port as it existed during the 19th century, one can imagine the anticipation that must have accompanied the site of Cornelius Vanderbilt's steam-powered Bellona when it first arrived in Red Bank in 1831, offering regular service to Fulton Street in Lower Manhattan. Monmouth Boat Club, which for more than 125 years has been our link to the Navesink River, is imperiled by a deteriorating substructure, which is failing in the harsh marine environment. With rising water levels and the potential for severe weather events, there is some urgency to address the problem. As indicated in the grant application, the boat club endeavors to replace its foundation support system and thereby to preserve the historic building that so greatly enhances our quality of life. The Red Bank Historic Preservation Commission fully supports Monmouth Boat Club in its preservation efforts. Very truly yours. Well, with that, I would make a motion to.
Thank you. I would have, I should have read the letter. I would make a motion
To support the I would recommend the boat club in its efforts to preserve the integrity of the structure.
I think that's what we want to put forward. The motion is that we, the commission endorse Chris Fabricant's letter from last year. And I would like to make a new letter to endorse our words so that the Monmouth Boat Club can provide that to their grant application they're submitting on Thursday.
So you would second the motion because,
Yes, I second the motion.
yes, Paul just made the motion, okay. All right, I will call roll call. Marjorie Cavalier,
Present, yes.
Liam Collins,
Aye.
Paul Cagno,
Well, I made the motion, so.
Karen Smelkoff.
Yes.
Doug Miller,
Yes.
Andy North.
Yes.
So, the next item under new business.
Thank you very much.
Yeah,
Really
and
appreciate it.
what time should I come on Sunday?
Well, racing starts at 1, so the people are there at 12. They kind of gets deserted around 1 to 3, but some people will be there
Okay,
anytime. And, you know, my email to the club is pretty easy. vice_commodore@monmouthboatclub.org.
I'll just stop by.
Stop by, it's fine. And we will certainly be back with our full set of plans and with the
All right.
order in which we need to do that in the state first and all that. And talk to you about what we're doing in a lot more detail. The plans were actually just released a day ago.
So I will, if you could shoot me an email, because I don't think I have your email, but in the morning, to shoot me an email so I can send back this letter to you. S is in Sam, E is in Edward, B is in boy, A is in apple, N is in Nancy, K is in king, S is in Sam @redbanknj.org. Just so I can have this in time for you.
Bank.org, okay.
Yeah, because we're submitting this, not the same
I see.
grant application,
Okay.
but grant application and ours is about to.
Oh, thank you, I appreciate it.
And we thank you also for providing the boat club's national designation so that we can include it as part of our application to the
Okay.
historic.
Well, good luck with yours.
Yes, thank you too.
Yeah, it'll be interesting to see in September. Thank you. RedbankNJ.org it is?
Yes,
Okay. Thank you.
So now we move on to 21 Broad Street.
Mind if we pick up? Is it all right if we leave?
yes.
I figured that out. Good luck.
Oh, I'm sorry, so I have two applications. I didn't hear which one you would like to hear first.
Let's go with the agenda. On the agenda, 21 is first.
Okay, is there any way you would consider hearing 17 first, just because our planning board appearance on 17 is earlier in time than 21? If for some reason we didn't finish, we'd have more time to come back to 21.
I don't have a problem. Yeah, fine, let's flip them.
All right,
Fine.
great. I am John Anderson, I'm the law firm of Foss, San Philip and Mill, Broad Street in Red Bank. The applicant's attorney, this is with regard to 17 Broad Street. I'll be very brief in my remarks. This is the former home of Coco Paris. I tried to rack my brain to say, well, you know, what was there before Coco Paris? Paul Garmany may have been there and Moots for a time. And then I did a little poking around in the Randall Gabriel and book and elsewhere. And I see that historically it was an art supply store for quite some time. It was a store called Petley's. And then later, a rest location. Petley's was established sometime in the 1880s, if I'm not mistaken. It's from Randy Gabrellin's book. This application pertains pretty much solely to the lower facade, the first floor. There's no planned renovation of the upper floor exteriors. Those are going to remain unchanged upstairs. Enormous molding, all that's gonna remain unchanged. We have a full replacement of the lower first floor facade. I can tell you that facade is not original. I know that because I looked up a store like Tetley's. It had a sort of a deco looking 50s style facade with a lot of plate glass and 2 doors. Okay, with the board, that's around that photo from Randy Gabrillin's book.
Here is another one of Randy's books that shows,
Colorist maybe?
It's the same picture.
yeah, your colorist, yeah.
Yeah, so I have that one as well. I don't know if this is the exact one from Randy's book, but this is from Ellie as
Which might be next to it, yeah, that's the other one that I have.
well. I think Tetley's predated.
Yeah,
Colorist.
that's what's-
As you can see, it's historically that first floor facade has differed greatly from what you see today as the former home of Cocoa Parade. Facade showing a lot of signs of wear. The architect tells me that the threshold to the doorway is crumbling. I've observed personally peeling paint. I think the Cocoa Parade sign has been removed, though you can see the silhouette of the former letters. And so, yeah, the applicant's plan would be to remove that facade, lower facade. You have before you sheet A200. If you do, it's the left-hand side of the page. So it keeps some of the design elements in terms of the molding on the left-hand side, right-hand side. Second floor.
John, excuse me, are you talking about A200?
Yeah, yes.
That's the next page.
That's 200. And it has a side-by-side comparison of what's there. Okay. The left-hand side is what's proposed. The most noticeable difference to me would be the 4 sort of arched or rounded windows above the area that's proposed to be signable. We're not asking you to approve any signs tonight. That presumably be a separate application because those aren't finalized for presentation yet. Obviously, there would be 1 to 2 signs eventually. We've shown an approximate location as a hypothetical, approximate size. That's something that would be the subject of application.
Are those names on the front as placeholders?
I think so, yes. Just to show approximately where the signage would be located, and approximately the size of the signage and the types of businesses that are envisioned there. So it's proposed to have a small retail component on the right-hand side, and then the left-hand side is sort of an L-shaped space that they would like to do sort of a combination cafe restaurant with possible liquor service if they can get the appropriate share for that.
Is that what is meant in the narrative of primary food use?
Yeah, so you have to select between primary food or alcohol service, depends on what threshold you have. So if you're doing majority food as opposed to majority alcohol, you would fall within the primary food service, which is a permitted use in your CCD2 zone. So that would be the subject of our planning board application, which is scheduled to May 8th. We're looking to change the use from retail to a combination of retail and primary food. We need a parking variance from the planning board. But we adopted you first because we're doing changes to the exterior development. That's pretty much all I have. There were 1 or 2 other things the architect asked me to mention. He did say the color selections aren't final, but he's aware that it would have to be from the historic palette. And he referenced the Williamsburg palette. I know the palette that you traditionally use from not necessarily Risso's paints anymore. I think that either Sherwin-Williams or Benjamin Moore now has a representative palette with equivalent colors under different names. So the plan would use that. He told me that between the planning board appearance, it looks like submissions to this board that you would get a chance at some point to color.
Yeah, and the ordinance is not as specific as to all the ordinance lists on page 20 and 22 is in kind or compatible exterior colors must be utilized.
I guess historically, there was a specific reference to a brand and a subset of that brand, like a particular palette. I know for my own buildings, we've tried to match it, but we said, well, it's not commercially available, but this is the closest you can get within that historic, and they'll have, you know, sort of a different name and a different swatch, but nearly
Right.
identical.
I-
The other thing he said was, since the threshold's crumbling, he was, soliciting some feedback from the, committee and the commission as far as a material for the ground floor and the recessed doorway. What you might like to see there if we're to remove that and replace the walking surface. The
Oh.
threshold.
If it's acceptable, when going back to the paint color, to the board, if it's acceptable to the board, what I've always recommended to applicants is to find a paint, like, a paint palette that is from the same historic period. And as John mentioned, that, Sherman-Williams does carry it based on the period of time, so that will help instead of doing a specific brand. But if it's just any paint brand that has, paint swatches from a certain period of time based on when the building was built or the style that it was built, I think that would be more helpful to the applicant.
And one other thing I should clarify, the same owner owns 17 Broad, and they also own 19 Broad, which is, it was Catch last, it was jewelry store Hamilton before that. That is not part of this application. It's not before the board pending to alter that building, it's just the lower facade, 17.
Okay, so I guess noted in the minutes that under new business, item 3 is 17, not 17-19.
Yeah, it's confusing because his LLC is 17-19, but this application solely pertains to that.
Okay, thank you.
John, I have a couple questions. So you're basically, you're splitting the storefront into two businesses, right? Into,
Maybe two separate doorways. It is possible that to be shared restroom facilities because there's limited space. So whatever they can do within the plumbing code to have a shared space within the interior of the building, there may be connectivity, but from the exterior, they want to be able to access retail versus accessing, you know, restaurant space.
okay, so we don't have any authority with respect to the interior, so I just want to focus on the exterior. It's hard for me to tell from the from A-200 where the two, where there is now one door at Coco Parade, where there's now going to be two full glass doors. Is that are they both recessed back a series of feet?
I believe so. I can tell you for sure that the existing doorway is, and it's slightly offset to center to the right. Those doorways are gonna be signage, side by side centered on the building.
I said, John, I didn't have A-100. Is that depicted on A-100, the setback of the doors?
Yes, they are showing the doorway essentially located with a slight back to the street.
Okay, so is there anything separating the two units, or is it just gonna be like two large glass doors?
So if you're looking at A-100, you're gonna see like a sort of a, I don't know, bold line down the center.
Yep.
That's the partition wall separating the two units. It's like almost absolute center of the building.
Okay,
Notice that the retail area is proposed to be shallower than the restaurant space. The restaurant space continues back in an L shape. The retail is just, I don't know, it's not dimensioned here, but it's only 460 square feet overall of retail, whereas the primary food's 400.
okay, so there's a partition that separates the two doorways that then becomes flush with the facade, is that right?
There may be a slight separation between the two doorways to allow for that partition wall. But it's not large, they're pretty much centered and set next to each other.
What's the corner for, what's the framing for the facade where the doors and the windows are? Is that like an anodized metal frame that you're doing or?
There are very few notes as far as the material for the doorways. Or notes for the rounded glass windows, they call it a mold spandrel glass. ETD blade, LED storefront for the lower area. And it does mention that the pilasters at the edges of the building to the left and the right, as well as the sort of the cornice separating the first and second floor would be replaced in an exact color selected from your historic color palette.
So Shauna, was it just being asked on the, to kind of sit on the
And if
first
you have-
page?
And on the, not the first page, but to sign off, not sign off so much as to, provide any recommendations or comments on, the design or the style. That's what really you're being asked for, and for the planning board or zoning board to take into consideration their, approval.
So can I ask, the framing of the front will remain? Like the decorative molding around the front will
On
stay?
the left-hand side, right-hand side
And
and
above.
above, it appears that on sheet.
That will stay.
200 is proposed to remain,
This
or
part,
be reconstructed largely
Right.
in kind.
right? Okay. And it seems like the arcs that they're using kind of complement the ones that are in the historical building Patrizia's, like they have that arc to the front.
Yeah,
Looking for harmony.
that's
on the-
true, or
on
like
the
also
street.
like Newport Capitol, which is a taller building.
They do
Has
for the arcs,
an arched window.
yeah. So it's not totally foreign like the one we were talking about before the meeting, the 2009 approval. So what do we need to do?
Well, will the arches above the windows be glass or is that wood framing? Is that solid wood or is that glass?
I mean, there's
Windows.
area, but it should be windows. He's labeling it as a mold spandrel glass, so I believe they're windows.
So we're basically going on from where Coco Puri currently has its sign. Right, Coco Puri Red Bank, we're gonna change that to windows with the mold glass, is that the plan?
That's pretty accurate. I think they're gonna reduce the signable area and reclaim some of that space for windows.
Well, with respect to the floor, I don't know if we were better off carrying the pavers up. Or if it would be some type of stone, blue stone or something that would go into it. I'm really not sure which way to go on that. But
You're
what
talking
do you
about
think?
the entrances?
Well, there's like a foyer, it's like a double, now basically the doorway is gonna expand, it's gonna be twice the size as what's currently there. So, and what's currently there is what?
Right, I would be just venturing a guess, I wouldn't.
Yeah. Well,
And maybe it's dimensioned on the existing layout.
looks like, no, it looks like concrete.
Well, anything would be
That's right.
preferable to just concrete. You know, I mean, you could even have tile with the
Not
number.
that much larger than what you presently have, because right now you have a double door and this is proposed to be two single doors, albeit with a separation between them, but it is larger.
Yeah, and then it looks like it's concrete currently. I'm looking at it from the Google Street View. But I'm not sure. It's either Google or some type of cement looking tile, but it looks like it could be definitely improved.
I think it was described to me as some type of cement.
Yeah,
Maybe the architect firm could come back with some recommendations once they've looked around similar age buildings and come back with some ideas about what they would use.
Yeah, I mean, that certainly they're gonna have to finalize it in advance of May 8th because they're gonna present it to the planning board that night. But if there was something that you felt strongly about that you wanted to recommend to the planning board or recommend to the applicant, we would certainly use that.
Yeah.
Recommended pavers or bluestone.
Stone slabs,
There's also ceramic tile that's being used around, yeah, if you go
Yeah.
around town, that's a traditional way of dealing with those.
and they can
It
incorporate.
was a moppable surface you could clean with the
Right.
rain and weather.
Right, and they could even incorporate the number of the location on the tile.
Tile is sort of the prevailing thought, maybe if.
I like it, you know, because remember, you have all that red brick in front of it. So if there was something that went along with the paint scheme, that may be a good way to go. Okay, so what do we have to do now?
Other than, the recommendation for the concrete slab, to be either, pavers, bluestones, or ceramic tiles. Are there any other recommendations that you'd like to give for the application?
Just the paint color,
And the recommendation for the paint color is to?
just to historic palette that you suggested by like 19th century.
and then I would also suggest, within the foyer, currently you do have,
The offer him to be.
Oh, no, it can all be on. I
Oh,
fixed it.
okay. Sorry, I was getting very fresh with you with your button.
I was just gonna say, currently within the foyer, there is some distinctive characteristics with moldings. There's some moldings and that I can see from this. So I would suggest if you would, I can't tell from the,
Around the corner.
yeah, to continue it into the foyer so it maintains the characteristics of the building.
So what was that?
What I'm calling a entryway into the entryway where you're gonna,
That makes sense. I'm thinking of Jack's Music, for instance. They have the recessed entryway and the molding that they have on the front continues and takes a 90-degree turn into there.
yes.
So the molding should.
Here the exterior and the corner.
And then the other thing that I noticed too, that currently that looks nice, I don't know how historical it is, but there is, seems to be like a transom window also that it's not a full glass door from the floor to the ceiling. There is a transom there. Is that depicted on your drawings as well? It's hard to tell.
Talking about this?
Yeah.
Okay.
It does appear that there's like side lights or transoms adjacent. Right, but the windows on either side, is that what you're referring to?
No, I could show you kind of, that we could describe it into the record, but the current doorway has a double door. The double door runs from the ground up to about 1 or about 18 inches to the ceiling, for lack of a better word, and there seems to be a transom for the last 18 inches. You want to?
Yes, I see what you're saying about the current conditions, and are you talking about the windows proposed to the left and right having the transom?
No, I'm talking about the new doors that you're going to install. Is there going to be a transom on the new doors?
Not 100%. Like. The arched windows is the transom. I don't know that I see a like a rectangular transom above either door.
Well, I would suggest if that could be somehow maintained, a transom, the way it currently looks, I do think that brings a distinctive historical characteristic of the building. As compared to glass that goes from the floor of the entryway to the ceiling of the entryway. And John, if you want to see the photo that I'm looking at, just so we're clear that we're talking about the same thing, I have it on my computer.
Yeah, well,
I have it on my iPad, so I can just look at it.
you guys. So like up in here.
Up in the, yeah.
What is this?
So, all right, so I think we're ready to move on to 21.
Well, you want to make a motion for this one?
Yeah.
The land use board. 17 Broad Street, not 19. Okay, do I have a motion? Paul, did you make a motion? Or who made a motion? Was there a motion?
There wasn't a motion.
Oh, there wasn't? No? Marjorie, that's a motion.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's the motion.
Oh, all right. Did somebody make a motion?
Okay, so I'll make a motion to well, would I give my suggestions first? I mean, I would make a motion to approve the application, subject to the recommendations that we've laid out. One, which was the transom, to try to maintain the transom to the of the entry doorways, above the entry doorways, to carry the historical characteristics from the facade into the foyer, and to the
Stepping
floor of the
Floor of the foyer.
the floor of the foyer to be
Something historically correct based on architectural recommendations. Tile,
Tile,
bluestone.
bluestone, or pavers. But I have.
was there anything else?
Can you add?
And the facade to be in the historical colors.
In the facade, yep, I have that.
And a suggestion would be to have the number of the building on the paver coat on the tile.
That's one of them. If they go with tile to
Yes.
number the building tile, get it in the plan.
Okay, I have that down too.
Okay, so
Second, I need a 2nd.
I'll second.
Right, Marjorie,
Yes.
Liam Collins,
Aye.
Paul Cagno. Yes. Karen Schmeltz.
Schmeltz. There's
No,
T. Schmeltz.
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 Schmeltz call.
There you go. Yes.
Doug Miller,
Yes.
Andy Nor.
Yes.
Okay,
Thank you. Roll right into 21 Broad Street. Don Anderson, Los San Filippo and Milne, on behalf of the applicant. Just gonna flip my board around here. Yes. Again, this is C200 from the alternate, different plans, different applicant. C200 shows a photo of the existing facade of the building, and it shows a rendering of what's being proposed. This building is something that has to go to your zoning board of adjustment as opposed to your planning board, because there's a small floor area ratio variance. Attempting to do a rooftop deck in the rear, and they're adding a small little elevator well that's visible from the street. And for that reason, we maxed out our floor area zoning instead of planning. The proposal is to take what's been a vacancy for a decade or more to draw space, ideally with the ability to serve alcohol as well, contingent upon being. As far as the exterior improvements are concerned, there's once again, they're gonna paint the building. They too would definitely agree in advance that whatever they do would be in a historic color palette like we discussed on the prior application. As you can see right now from the photo, and if you observe the building recently, it's a sort of a terracotta exterior. It is, peeling, it's in need of repair, so they would repair it and paint it in historic color to be determined. I am told it is likely to remain either a white or an off-white, something in that nature. Looked in the Randy Gabrielin book, and at least as far back as 1946, it appeared to be, white or off-white. So that's kind of a continuation. It's been there for quite a while now. The main thrust of the work is replacing an existing glass first floor storefront with a new glass storefront, somewhat of a in-kind replacement, if you will. And then the third floor windows are proposed to be altered. If you look closely at the photograph of the existing conditions, what you'll notice is it sort of has smaller, like residential style windows almost. If you see it, you can tell that historically somebody altered what once was a larger opening, and they sort of reduced the size of the opening and put these residential windows in. I'll pass around a photo, or you guys have the book up there. As in 1946, there's a photo in the Gabrielin book, July 4th parade. And indeed, the ribbon window that you see on the second floor that continues.
What page are you looking at, and which volume, the first volume?
It is volume 1, it is page 25. Photo on the lower right-hand corner. I have a printout, I will circle the photo and I'll pass it around to you.
This is the.
Oh, it really looks wrong, doesn't it? It's gonna make it-
It's a little harder to see because it's not a direct view of the building, but there it is.
Oh, yeah. It's this. Wow.
So, actually.
But that's also what
Have another
somebody,
photo, which is pretty ugly that you won't have.
Yeah.
It's from the 80s, but it shows a little bit more clearly.
right, but we want it to be less ugly than 1946.
Okay. I think it's built.
Yeah.
Second.
Yeah.
So what you see, this building, although you would think it dates to the 1800s or early 1900s, to the best of my abilities, I looked at the Gabrielin book. It used to be maybe a wood frame 2-story building instead of a 3-story building. And it even had a peaked roof. So there's photos from 1906 and 1916 to that effect. I am told that this building is a little bit of a later build. Don't know if that's because somebody removed the wood structure or maybe it suffered a damage of some sort. But this one, as opposed to its neighbors, doesn't have the same vintage. And as best I can tell, the ribbon window may be original feature of the building dating back some time, and it was a ribbon window both on the second floor and the third floor. We believe by removing these smaller residential windows and mirroring the look of the ribbon window below, we're actually bringing it back in time and bringing it back to what was constructed there. The only other detail that they're proposing is 3, they call them metal canopies above the first, second, and third floor windows. Although they're a design element, I'm told they have some functionality as well. They're intended to block some of the sun from entering the building, so sort of an environmental feature to regulate temperature in the interior of the building, avoid the excessive use of air conditioning. They are metal, they are supported by stanchion, and I'm told they only affect 24 trees.
That's a better picture.
John, there looks like in the photograph that you provided, we don't have it marked. Do we need to mark it?
No, we don't.
Okay.
There's no attorney here. I mean, you are, but no.
I don't know if it becomes part of the record or not.
Which are the 2 photos? The Act 2 photo from circa the 80s?
Yeah. So is that the detail, it looks like there was some detail on the second and third floor on the windows, right? Is it,
Like the metal stripping.
there's some type of detail there. Do we know if that is historic or what? At some point, it came down on the second floor, and then on the third floor, somebody installed what appears to be some form of residential third floor,
Yeah, I noticed exactly what you're talking about, Mr. Cagno, and yeah, not that I'm a design professional by any means, but one thing that occurred to me is you have a lot of detail work going on with the terracotta, with that raised three-dimensional look. You have the diamonds with squares set within them, very ornate pattern. And to me, there was some sense that, that was a nice contrast to have the plain glass to not detract from what I thought was kind of the highlight of the building, the terracotta facade and that raised detail work. I just didn't know if it got too busy, if you had similar metal striping all throughout the windows, and would it detract or take away from that nice, pretty unique terracotta facade.
So I just like to read something from Red Bank Green. I don't know the exact date, but it's basically, if you're familiar, they routinely offer something, where have I seen this? And when the building was pictured, they got the following response. Last week's image showed the architectural top of the Doremus building, now home of Augusto Antiques. Charlie Doremus, a longtime Red Banker who moved to Aiken, South Carolina 6 years ago, tells where have I seen this, that his grandfather's brother, Newton Doremus, built it sometime in the late 1800s. Supposedly, it was the first fireproof building built in Red Bank, which makes it significant, not just, we rule not just architecturally, but also if it represents something of significance. So the fact that it was the first fireproof building, I think, is noteworthy. The structure went up after a blaze that consumed most of all of that side of Broad Street between Front and Mechanic Streets, the brothers said. Local historian Randy Gabrielin tells Red Bank Green the structure was built in 1931, though he hasn't included the building in any of his handful of photo history books about Red Bank. The Doremuses own so many properties that tracing the threads is daunting, he said. Jack Anderson, the owner of Jack's Music Shop, also says it was erected in the 1890s. That's your dad.
For the hearing, he's mistaken. I think that the guy that's got it right is Randy.
Yeah, 1931.
Yeah, on page 18 of Randy's book, the same one that you had, if you were to look in that same location, you're gonna see a two-story wood frame, non-fireproof building that I think probably bit the dust and was replaced circa the 20s or 30s by what you see now.
Right, so my only comment, and it's clear that awnings were historically correct in the 1800s. Wood, fabric, we have an example of corrugated metal on Broad Street. I'm happy that the awnings will not interfere with the detail of the building. The one thing I would object to is on your elevation of Broad Street, when it points to the decoration at the top, it says existing letters to be painted or obscured. And my meaning of obscured is make them to seem to become unclear or invisible. I would be totally against that. On the record.
my only comment, and I agree with you on that, is, the window that you currently have and that you're proposing, there are no other windows on the street that, look like this and lack the detail that this suggests. Even if you look across the street at the Newport Capital Group, they've got kind of the metal, I don't know what the name of it is, but it resembles what's depicted in your photograph that you had, and we didn't mark as an exhibit, but it shows previously what it looked like. It's like these squares almost, or at least a portion of the window. The Newport Capital Group has has it. And then, you know, in fact, every building on Broad Street has some form of detail to the windows. And we're talking about changing these windows to now have a building with two long windows with zero details in either one of them. So to me, I would prefer to see some detail within the glass. That's just my opinion. Like, even if you go to the liquor store at the end of West Front and Broad, they also have kind of a combination of, you know, little squares and a long glass. But it's indisputable that every single window on Broad Street on these buildings have some form of detail, except now for this building. So I would prefer to see some form of detail on those windows. This is my opinion. I think it is historical. I think it does bring out historical characteristics of Broad Street. I don't know if that's been talked about, John, with your client, or has he had a plan B?
Certainly, if that's the recommendation, I can discuss it. I don't know how he'll feel about it, but I'm duty bound to relay what it is that you decide.
Has your client looked into, I guess, windows from that age of when the building was built?
Candidly, I was not part of the design process.
Because maybe that would kind of help the commission if it was something of, not to recreate, but to, I guess, give a nod towards that building's age or whatever. It could be, if he doesn't want to, you know, make it look exactly like that, since they've already ripped out the originals.
Well, you have the picture, which gives you something to follow in terms of doing like a mullion, which is the word you were looking for.
What's it?
Mullions and muttons, that's
Mullions and muttons?
that's the interior framings of window panes and stuff.
I mean, my only concern is that
Not that, you know, again, not that,
a little bit busy when I'm looking at that photo, and I don't know if it's because of all the signage or the two facades.
I think it's more the signage,
Windows.
signage that makes it look busy in here.
It was struck me a little prison-like, I don't know.
Well, if it's from the twenties or something, they were metal framed. They were probably early Pella windows, actually. They made a lot of those, were done like that, were metal.
And those windows could have been put in after it was
Let me
built
look
in the
at this.
1930s.
Yes, exactly. They were probably part of that renovation.
Yeah.
You know, John, I think a good example too, you have the Robinson Ale House has what we're discussing, Patricia's has what we're discussing. And we just go up and down Broad Street with the picture that you presented and look at some of the other buildings. And I think it's still predominant in a lot of these buildings. So that's my recommendation. I don't know how the rest of the board feels about that, but.
And I agree with you. And I think you could do like some kind of, like, it's an application to the window, not necessarily has to be not true divided light and that kind of thing, but just an application of that mutton frame or mullion look.
And the paint. And the painting of the outside. I think, does everyone agree that
Dormis?
should be clear?
Yeah.
What was that?
Yeah, that should be preserved.
Dormis.
Should be-
The Doramus.
Oh, the Doramus.
Name.
Yeah, that it should not be obscured as suggested on their plans.
What happened with the Eisner building? I don't remember where Woolworths used to be, where Restoration Hardware is. That used to say Eisner building above it. Does it still say that?
No. No, it doesn't.
You know, but even next door at Catch 19 that your owner owns, right? Is it Catch 19 is your client's?
Catch is the prior application owns that one, not this guy.
Oh, I said, okay, but he also has preserved the Ludlow Hall is what it used to be, and he's preserved it, and it's a nice feature.
But I think it's okay that the building was built, and I trust Randy. No, nothing against your dad.
Tried to call him this
But,
evening.
but the fact that in 1930s, the style had changed from the 19th century. And, the reason why I think it's historic was noted. It's clear that
It's Art Deco representation.
yeah, it's an art deco, yeah. So if that's the way they go, and if you're talking about the entryway, I mean, that would clearly to me be tile if there's some kind of entryway on it. It's hard for me to see, the use of tile, black and white tile and that kind of thing to kind of play that up.
They're replacing one of these too, right?
And real quick to clarify the comment by my father on the 1890s, I think he may have been under the impression that the building was occupied by a store called Storks. I don't know if that ended up being true or not, but it was sort of the predecessor of his store and his father's store. And it dates to the 1890s, so he may have been trying to convey the impression that the occupant had been there since the 1890s as opposed to the building.
Okay.
Obviously, that didn't come through from the Red Bank Green article. I read that one as well before we came.
I have a question. The second floor that is there now is like 7 windows that are together?
Like 7 panes, like
Right.
without metal detailing.
That's what's there now.
Can't see it from here, but that appears to be accurate. It seems to be multiple panes.
So you want to replicate that up on the 3rd floor as well?
So however many you
Matching.
have on the second should match on
The second floor is going to stay as is, that you're not changing that out,
They were not proposing to.
right?
That's not safe, so.
And John, can you just talk a little more about the awnings? I mean, are we talking about the awnings that, you know, it's hard to tell from your drawing. It's like a generic architectural kind of
Yeah,
drawing that I can't really tell what it's gonna look like or what we're approving. Are we talking about a charm awning or are we talking about something else?
the architect described it as 24 inches in depth, so it's not gonna project, tremendously far into the sidewalk. I can read the note on it, but I think it was supposed to be metal. Not sure if it's going to be like louvered. There's some kind of translucent characteristic to it or not, or if it's solid. I got the impression that it may have some ability to see through it if you were looking directly up, like it's not a solid metal, but I'm not 100% sure.
I don't know what to think about that. I think I'm for the awnings. I don't know. I wish I had a picture of what we're approving, a clear picture of what we were approving to be put on there. Whether it's metal or fabric or both. I just don't know what I'm looking at when I look at that photograph. I understand the idea 100%, but I just don't know exactly. I would like to see a picture of it. I don't know if that could be submitted to us. You have to go to the planning board, when, John?
This one, I have to go to the zoning board on May 16th, which is one day after your next meeting.
After the next meeting.
I could get it to the board. It will be fine.
Yeah, if I could
Make a
just-
recommendation if John provides me with the details of it.
Yeah,
Would you want to see a sample of the material?
that would be an ideal situation. But like I said, would we be approving what the applicant is proposing in and of itself?
It's-
Or not, I'm sorry.
It's a
It's a recommendation.
recommendation. So what you would all be agreeing to is the same recommendation for the land use boards to take into consideration.
Okay, so I don't know if there's other awnings in the town that he could reference or
Well,
a picture of something on another older building that he could reference for us.
I went, when I heard we were gonna do this and took a serious look and, it's with the exception of the Char building, which is, the bottom doesn't talk to the top in that building, totally different. Most of the awnings are either black, or striped material and metal, with the exception of one awning further down Broad, still has the corrugated metal on the top of the building.
Do you, Madam Chair, do you know which building you're referencing that has the corrugated? Sorry, which group that's.
Yeah. No, I could, get it to you, but, as another option, but it's on the west side of Front Street?
Side of Front Street?
Yeah, it's on the west side of Front Street, in like the second block, I think, but.
Yeah.
Not talking about like it was,
It's a red brick building, it's 1900.
On West Front Street?
No, it's on Broad,
It's on Broad, okay.
yeah, yeah. Okay, maybe I need to know, but,
Mechanic say, or?
Too detailed.
Broad. It's on the even side of Broad,
Then you was proposed to like
further down the Tracy is.
both sets of windows.
I think it's a detail.
Um. Yeah, it's on there, it's, it's not too far down,
Is it beyond White Street?
I don't know, I'm sorry, but it's on the upper level. It's on the upper level, so they have dealt with the awnings differently. So it's a possibility, but again, food for thought, something they could think about.
I mean, it's, certainly tonight, if you had a specific color suggestion, if you said, we'll do them in black, I mean.
I don't know, again, because if we agree that it's a 1930s building, that gives them a little bit more leeway to look a little different than the Ludlow building next to it. You can almost see the progression of architectural styles. So,
As much as I love the Ludlow Hall and it's very resemblant of a couple of my family's buildings, I think it's sort of a nice juxtaposition, the two differentiated styles. If I had to pick two buildings in a row on Broad Street in terms of ones that I think are just a nice pairing, those always stood out to me. It's just really nice.
no, hold on.
Do you know why they don't have the awning on the street level stops and go full length in the front?
That's a good question. That
I
occurred to me.
Send a picture and then.
Rather see it continue. I don't know if there's a specific rationale.
Seems like you'd have more, uniformity if it matched the other two above it.
Yeah, I don't have a concrete answer to it, but it caught my eye as well.
So. How do we move this now?
Okay.
You've been taking notes?
I have been, okay, so the recommendations that we have so far. Is for, the windows to have some form of a details, mullions or muttons, I believe. Muntin.
UNTIN.
Okay, on the second and third floor, and Marjorie gave us a suggestion, but it should match some of the style, the awnings, well, the windows should match the style of other buildings on Broad Street. Have that same kind of look. And then we should preserve the Doramus, at the top and not obscure it. And then for the awnings to be, we need more details on the awnings, and you'll provide that to us by the next meeting so that the board will have the final decision at the May meeting.
So that would be old business.
Yes.
So that would be old business. That would be moved.
So we'll just be discussing the awnings at that meeting, or do you want to see the window design at that meeting also?
Yeah, it'd be nice to see something proposed.
Okay, so an update. So this would just be an update based on the recommendations here. What was the final decision?
Yeah, and then what's the consensus with respect to the partial awning on the first floor and the full awnings on the second and third floor? If I knew why he decided not to continue it, I would like to know what that reason is. Otherwise, I don't see a reason to stop it where it is. But I don't want to say I don't recommend what you're showing us here. I just want to know why it is that he did that, when it seems to me that to keep it consistent would make more sense.
Sorry, I'm looking at my phone. It's just because I try to text the architect. some of These things, but he's wrapped up.
Okay.
Well, you have time. You have time to come back in May.
Oh, sorry, can I'm a little bit confused about the recommendation for the windows. So we're saying that that they should include some detail, but you're saying they should be in the style of other buildings in Red Bank? Or it's two different things, isn't it? I mean, the detail that Paul was talking about was more in line with like a Art Deco style versus I think what Marjorie was saying to make it more like the other upper story buildings of the other adjacent buildings.
Actually, I was saying that if it's true to the building, which is more Art Deco, then I think they have a little bit more flexibility than some of the other buildings. So they don't have protruding caps on the windows, for example. And as shown in the schematics, they're not obscuring the decorations above. So to my mind, it could be streamlined. And since we're not making formal recommendation on this tonight, that it gives the architecture some time to rethink some of these ideas. So we're not moving on this tonight. We're not making. a
No, you don't
recommendation.
have to.
I mean,
The
yeah,
only
I
thing
think the detailed windows that Paul was describing, the Art Deco style, probably was the original windows from the 1931 design. I don't know if the building did pre-exist before that, after the fire in 1878, but the style of this building is definitely Art Deco, so probably dating at least the facade from the 1930s. So that kind of black window framing, I think, really does fit with the Art Deco style. So that would be my recommendation, that rather than try to change it to anything to fit in with the other architecture of the adjacent buildings, I think to stick to the 1930s style.
Yeah, what I was suggesting was what was proposed or what was shown in the exhibit that was handed to us. And what I was saying, so we're clear, John, I think that you understand what I was saying. There's what you showed me in the photograph, and then there's other buildings on Broad Street that replicate this kind of look, where it may not be from top of the window to the bottom of the window, but there is a portion of, well, in the photograph, the entire window's got the design. But then there are other buildings, like buildings across the street or adjacent, that do have partial of the metal design of the windows. So that's all I was suggesting, some form of.
House that might have it.
Yeah, well, like, for example, when you look at right across the street, the Haught Maven, I don't know if that's still there, that I'm looking at a Google photo from 2019. You have the windows down on West Front Street at the former liquor store, that's now Sally Boys. You have the Newport Capital Group building has it.
Yeah.
You can go up and down, the Ale House has it, like I said, every window in town has some detail to it, just about. I would say 90% of it. That's all I was referencing, but I think we should be working off of, if this is the earliest photograph that we have, it seems to make sense to work on.
Yeah, we gotta hold on to this, right? We
Yeah,
gotta hold on to this, or no?
I'll keep it for the record. So we have it.
Okay,
I'll keep it.
all right, so see you in May.
Right.
All right,
Thank you.
thank you for your time, and thank you for being involved in the process.
Thank you for having us.
Okay, so the next two items should be short, so I apologize, we're about 10 minutes past 8:30, but I think the next two items are pretty quick. So Sam for writing guidelines, so
I'll give you a brief update on that. So, as, the boat club, they were submitting an application to the, Historic Trust, the New Jersey Historic Trust. The, borough is working with our grant writers to submit an application, a grant application, to the Historic Trust for, two things. For the historic, architectural survey of the entire borough, and also for design guidelines. It includes, we would have to, part of the submission, we have to prove, how historic the borough is. All of that information was kind of submitted. Also, a draft RFP had to be provided to them for the consultant, which I put together. Should we be awarded, I will provide the RFP before we issue it out to the commission, so that you guys can see exactly what I laid out for the scope of work. And then we can make changes as we go. If you wanted more details, the scope of work to be more detailed before we post it. But I just had to come up with a draft for our submission. We're not beholden to it, but they just needed an RFP because we don't have a consultant already selected. Also, what else was submitted? We had to provide historic proof that we had historic sites. So Monmouth Boat Club was nice enough to provide their national nomination form that signed off from the state, not the state, but the National Historic Preservation that they were awarded and designated on a national list. So they were nice enough to provide that. There was a lot of things about narrative and just the history of Red Bank. But mostly we're applying for core funding for a consultant to do the design guidelines in addition to an overall historic architectural survey, a more accurate one. And it'll be updated and it will be more updated. So I believe we will find out. The submission is tomorrow and they have submitted the first half today, the electronic copy today. I guess the second half is for tomorrow also. So we will find out if we are awarded the funds. I did put it down for 60,000. So I hope with a matching amount of 15,000 from on the borough's end, because we have to do a 25% matching amount. So the borough's matching amount is 15,000, and we're bonding. I'm not bonding, but we're applying for the remaining amount. We should know something. I think the grant writer said by September. So hopefully we get it. Fingers crossed. I'm not sure how many other organizations or municipalities are going after a grant, but I think this would be a great opportunity for us. And then if, you know, we're successful, we can apply next year for another grant, for the same grant again, even though we're awarded for this. But I think next year, the plan is to apply for the grant to do, to update the historic preservation element. That's what I kind of envision and have in mind to do. But first, our main focus is to get the design guidelines done and do an architectural survey and then do an update on the historic preservation element.
Okay, thank you. So this item it's just kind of a roll call to see if everyone has completed the financial disclosure statement, which is due the end of April. So you want to just, can you just kind of say, Karen?
I started, I talked to Laura today, and it didn't quite go through. I did everything on my end, and so it should be tomorrow that I can do
Okay,
that.
good.
I did not do anything about it at all whatsoever. I have to look at it.
But you promise you will.
I will, but I don't know what it actually is. It's,
Oh, so it just sees to make sure that there's no like conflict in your finances. Once you sit on one of these boards.
Right.
We have to, I mean, even myself as the director, department heads, we all have to do it, a financial disclosure, just to say that we're not
it's not like
misappropriating funds.
it's not telling us your income or
No, it's just saying that you're not, you know,
investments.
investing in
Yeah.
things like that. You're not, misappropriating.
And you probably, if you've never done this before, will have to get an ID number
Yes.
from the clerk.
Yeah, so if you're
Fill it
having,
out.
any issues, very simple.
No, it's not. I'll just
If you
take a look. I just didn't want to disclose financial, that kind of stuff, certainly.
So I have, I did one
You did one,
a few months ago, I feel like, so I have to do it again.
every year we have to do
Yeah,
it.
so I'll get it done by the deadline.
So if we don't do it, you do get fined. So if you don't do it past the timeline, the
Okay.
deadline, we do get fined. Well, no, the individual person gets fined. I forgot how much the fine is, so.
$50 million.
That's motivating, yes.
It's one of the,
No, I'm
you know,
kidding.
parts of being
Kidding.
volunteer that you have to do. it. So
It's due at the end of the month?
Yes.
Yes. Andy?
I haven't done anything with it.
I have done
guess I
it.
will.
I have done it. Liam?
Yes, I completed mine.
Okay, so we just have to reach out. And so, and finally, it's not on the agenda, but is anyone interested in going to the June?
Oh. I was gonna say affordable housing conference. No, this is the historic preservation conference. It's June fifth and sixth.
Anybody, she said.
If you're interested, please let me know so I can follow everyone's registration together. It's in Jersey City.
Okay, so last thing on the agenda is.
That's it.
Public comment, there's more person. All right, public comment? Yeah, there was supposed to be another public comment. Sorry.
Sorry.
There was going 25 Cedar Street. That was one question, why it wasn't public comment at the end of the meeting? Because you spoke, for example, the one that got tabled to the next meeting, I would be able to comment it because it'd be considered old business, but you.
Right, I'm sorry, no, it was supposed to, there was supposed to be another. In the past, in the first couple of times that we met as a group, there was public comment at the end. But then we realized that, as I said in the beginning, you needed two opportunities for public comment, one on agenda items and one if there was anything else. So in the future,
It'll be there.
our format for the agenda will include two opportunities for public comment.
And my second question was, you spoke about, and I guess I maybe could have did it earlier, but I didn't realize it was part of your. What you're exactly going over with the Irving situation. So I just wanted to know if, which I did live in Arthur, so I know a lot of people that we've been talking about this. If I wanted to do something that would probably will not meet the criteria of making it a historical district, if I get it in before the deadline, that's okay. So if I wanted to change my windows, it's not meeting the historical requirement that's proposed.
Oh, if you live at a place where it is not a designated site, you still need a building permit for certain things, but you don't have to come before this commission.
Right, so I'm saying, I get that, but I'm saying, if I'm on Arthur though, and you're in the process of thinking it, if I get in before the.
We're not doing Arthur, it's.
I mean, not Arthur, it's Irving, if I get in before the change, is that possible?
No, you wouldn't be reviewed by this commission. To be reviewed by this commission, you have to be designated by ordinance. So if you are not included, if council didn't vote on an ordinance to include your property, until that time is done, then this commission will not review. You will not be obligated to come before this commission for any change to your property exterior.
And then on the flip side, instead of processing, if I, for some reason, am not in compliance, whatever you guys passed, is there a fine or something that I have to be compliant, or you're just taking my house as at face value, even though I'm not making your new criteria?
Well, based on what the attorney said, this is a weak commission, so they can only recommend, you know.
To the other boards
recommendation.
to take action.
If you have to go before a board, but it's more so recommendation.
Okay. So.
But I just want to put that it's also good to be neighborly. I know all the residents in Red Bank care about their properties, and want to be friendly with their neighbors and, you know, to do right. So I think this is a strong incentive just for, neighbors to work together and try their best to keep in keeping the town as beautiful as it is, to listen to the commission and to take the recommendation, because that only adds values to your house and to your property.
Okay, is there a motion to adjourn?
Motion to adjourn?
Okay. Thank you.
Thank you.
See you tomorrow, Paul. Yes, we are. See you tomorrow.
Only the one?
Yeah, it's only the one. I can't do nothing more.
You think it's gonna be quick or what?
It should be. It's very basic, yeah.